Could you tell what I was feeling there? Not really, right? You could assume a bunch of things, but in honesty, you can definitively tell me what I was feeling. So, Katawa Shoujo's Shizune route. I liked it a lot. I think before I read the route, there was a lot of concerning like divisive controversies around it. Oh, mostly just people being divisive about this is the worst route ever because something about Shizune being one note, something about Shizune being like annoying or something. So here's my thoughts on it. So as like a preamble before I talk about Shizune, here's what I thought Shizune was gonna be. So I thought Shizune was gonna be, I mean, probably the hardest in terms of like communication, because obviously Shizune, I think of the Katawa Shoujo girl, she has the trait of being not very being of not being able to communicate the most effectively. You know, obviously because of her disability, but also I think of her personality is like in the first like act, you could tell that she's an A because she communicates through Misha. Most of her personality is like really hard to surmise, unless surmise. It's like even with sign language, it is like another huge step for herself to understand what she's even like, what tone she's taking. So with that in mind, I started the season with like high hopes that it would like kind of stir something up, and I think it did. Like it did show some very unique things that weren't in the other routes. So season A, season A. I'll talk about Misha later. Season A, I think, is a character. I saw in the forum someone called her like Beethoven. You know, Beethoven was a really bad person, but you know, he did so much good for the world. I think that's like stupid to describe Shizune like that. She's a I agree. She might be the most like disagreeable heroine so far. Like we have Emmy, we have Rin, and those two are like they might have like their own traits that'll like heavily like discourage Hisao to pursue them. But I think she's in a is more on the like very disagreeable, very like agitating kind of person, and uh, this route did very well. Well, I wouldn't say like in a very interesting way of characterizing Shizune's background in ways that like okay, it's similar way to Emmy's to like Emmy's family, but I guess Shizune's family was more like a glimpse into like how she was impacted by her family. With Emmy's mom, I don't think you can like obviously tell like one or two traits, but it's much more prevalent in Shizune's root. I know some people don't like Shizune's family, but I think they served like a decent role. I do wish they got like some kind of conclusion in their stories, like maybe what's his name, Hideaki or something. Hideaki like gets to learn sign language more, and maybe Jigoro actually like stops being an ass. Probably not. I mean, just wanted to see a little bit more of them in the end, but I wish they went somewhere. But it was nice seeing them, cause I guess like after seeing them, the role in the story, it is mostly just their entire role is to characterize Shizune, right? The character role is to characterize Shizune. I think they're much like much less characters than and more just extensions of Shizune. Same thing with Emi, kind of, I guess. But again, Jigoro and Hideaki, they're fun characters. At least they're like they're good enough to like be entertaining. All right, so Shizune. I think Shizune is a very interesting, very nice, awesome character because in the first two routes, I think there was lacking some kind of like well no, the first two routes it felt a little bit like one sided in some way or another. With Emmy's route, I think it was definitely like Hisao was definitely pursuing Emmy a bit, and second route everyone knows about Rin route. It was very unequal in many ways, but Shizune route I think right after the point where Hisao like learns sign language, Hisao and Shizune's dynamic I feel like becomes a lot more like back and forth and really enjoyable, and in a very different way because I really like how the dynamic of sign language is set to have many intricacies. Like once Hisao learns like many different usual phrases that Shizune uses in sign language, he basically gains like a whole new understanding of her. It's really awesome. It's really awesome to see like Hisao developing again more of Shizune's traits, but also he because he the more he like subconsciously spends time with Shizune, and obviously Shizune and Misha you spend so much time with them, especially in the first act. You spend, I think, in a whole, they have the most scenes in Act One. So you're basically like building off that relationship for both of them, and yeah. So and season eight, she's this kind of character who does like the greater good, right? The greater good. She wants to help people. She's a very altruistic person. Albeit she does it in a very like aggressive way. She remember in the first choice, in the first big choice of season eight in Act One, you basically he's always playing Whisk, and the I think the correct choice for activating Shizune's root is if he plays super aggressively, he takes the risk, and she said congrats him for him, having balls. And that's quite like most of her root. Most of her root is like Hisao showing a lot of balls to work in the student council because there's free people, and Hisao having the balls to like, confront Shizune and like ask her out, that kind of thing. And yeah, I think Shizune doesn't change too much throughout the route, and whereas like in Rin and Emmys, they definitely will have like a bigger step towards like development. I think Shizune's route, she mostly kind of comes to her own terms of like life. Well, okay, that sounds like every other Katawa shoujo, but for Shizune, you just get to see a new side of her. I think that's the most important part of Shizune route. Yes, she's kind of like a domineering like dictator sometimes. Yes, she's very like she wants to get things done. She wants to get the student council prepped. But I think it's all in good faith because Shizune has all the markings of a great leader. Actually, kind of. She's all the markings of a great leader in the moment. Shizune is someone who loves like living the present. She loves spurring things on. She loves seeing the short term things come true. Especially, oh yeah, Shizune loves competition. She loves making everything a goddamn competition. Like, Hisao, are you eating lunch? I bet I'll race you, and whoever wins has to make the other one build five planks for the stores for this festival. That kind of thing. It's obviously something that like Shizune does it for some other people more than herself. I feel, even though she gets like a lot out of it, out of like manipulating people. I genuinely think she does it out of care to like spur other people, and that may be very like that may be maybe very manipulative, very arrogant, but it is a part of her character that I really like. So I understand why that's divisive. I understand why that's like she's always on your fucking ass. Like, yeah, I guess it is maybe annoying for Hisao every time she's like is asked to do something. She makes a contest for some reason. But again, it's a part of her. I don't think the end of her route she kind of decides to like become less competitive, but she's still a big part of her. So yeah. I guess I'll cover 8 scenes right before Misha. 8 scenes are okay. They're alright. I think they just kind of happen. The first one was kind of like a little bit non-consensual. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. Like the dude was like tied up, and then she like kind of felt him up his hands. It was really weird. Yeah. Again, it does fit Shizune, but like it's a really bad impression to leave. It's a really bad impression to leave the first H scene with. But enough of that. Let's talk about Misha. I think going into this route, we completely fine to assume that Misha is like the sub-heroine of this route, or Misha might be like a branching heroine off Shizune's route, but this is not the case. You can't romance Misha for big reason. Spoilers. She's gay. Yeah. But that's not all. I think Misha is a very like iconic character in Shizune's route. It would absolutely Shizune would be, I think would be absolutely garbage from Misha, because Misha was like is like not the straight man. She's like the funny, the curvy person in this kind of trial, right? Misha's happy. Misha's always trying to cheer the people up, and throughout the you kind of realize that like Misha's doing this all for Shizune. Misha doesn't want to be in the student council in the first place. She only does it for Shizune, and she fell in love with that person who was always like taking command of things. And it's really sad to see like Misha like develops like suicidal tendencies just because like with her around she thinks nobody gets along, and that's not true. That's not true. I think in the first like impressions of Misha, you might think Hisao might have thought that Misha was a really huge annoyance because like she was the worst person to interpret Shizune's words because the way her tone was uh, interpreted to Saw, it was always like off the mark, right? But that does push Saw to like just go past that boundary and learn sign language to communicate with Shizune. So I think we have to thank Misha for that. Not that like her translation is bad. Her translation is amazing. Like multiple times he glazed Misha like the Satoru Gojo, the Makio Tono Tachibana of sign language. He's like, she can do all that in less than 2 seconds, unparalleled, under the heavens, something like that. Because Misha's fantastic. She's a very skillful person, and yeah, she's just prone to have big mood swings, but she never lets it show. I think Misha's a great character. I know people say she carries the root, but I say she's and Misha, they're a duo. They're a very good duo, and they make the root work. It's kind of like a straight man and like a goofy person, right? But also like they're both those things. Misha gets the most serious talk in the root. I really like that the scene where like Hisao and Misha walk around the building, and Hisao says, "Oh, this is where I met you, and this is where you told me you're afraid of scares. You're afraid of stairs. It makes you dizzy." It was really a wholesome scene, and overall, I really like this triple dynamic. It wasn't really a love triangle, but like it was like a really nice triple trial dynamic. I think the romance is the least most important part of Shizune Root. And like romance is like it's very mellow. It's like Hisao asks Shizune out. That's kind of it. Oh they go to Pound Town like twice. That's really it. So in the end, yeah. You don't know what my train of thought went off. But Shizune Root, I think I like it more than Emmy's Root. It is much more. It is a lot of character work to explore. Side characters are okay, could be better. I'm not. Misha's a main character. She's not a side character. Misha, Shizune, and Hisar were great in this route. They were really good. A really strong dynamic. I like it more than Emmy's route. I think explores topics like your future better than Emmy's route. Like Emmy's route, I I just think Emmy's my least favorite right now. She's name who does a lot of special things in terms of dynamic, in terms of you know main characters and such and such. But I will get to the problems right now. So I think the problems with season is that yeah I you may call it a problem, but I think it's just something that's under like undercovered or not as covered in Shizune's route. The romance is perhaps Shizune and Hisao like don't they really interact. I think they interact as like partners, like partners in crime and I think partners in like business kind of thing a lot. So after the confession, I feel like the dynamic doesn't change, which is fine. I mean, the dynamic really doesn't change that much, which is completely fine. Ooh, I just think for some reason that doesn't really like make me happier or not for some reason. Like usually if the dynamic doesn't change, I'd be pretty happy. But who am I to say Rin's root only has Rin's root only has a romance thing at the very end. So I guess I'm glad that Shizune and Hisao kind of start out pretty early as lovers and they kind of develop their relationship without regarding that as a super important point, which is cool. Shizune is a very like stubborn person, and I don't think she would let something like a romantic relationship get in the way of her goals. And I guess the biggest problem with this route is like things happen very suddenly. Like Misha suddenly revealed to have loved Shizune all this time, and I really like this part about this route where Misha admits that she's really confessed to Shizune, and Shizune, doesn't cast her aside. Shizune in fact like rejects her, but she also keeps Misha at her side because Shizune doesn't know what else to do. Shizune like is the type of person to think everyone can like move on, but that is not the case. And I just think Misha moved on that way too quickly. Like right after she has this big talk with Sal, right after the single choice in the route that actually matters, Misha just returns to normal and she's like everyone's happy again. It happens very quickly, and it also like the bad end is also not very significant. I felt like cheating on your girlfriend with her best friend is like was going to be a worse bad end than I thought, but I guess in the bad end for Shizune, Shizune just doesn't discover it, and she just decides that she should be isolated from everyone else. Again, this is one of the parts where I like Rin route a lot, because the bad ends like really dig into you, like the consequences of Shisao's actions, right? With Shizune route's bad end, it just really like doesn't highlight the significance of him cheating on his girlfriend. So there's that. Again, I wouldn't rate I would rate a route based on how bad the bad end is actually. I would say that because in visual novels, I think just having a true end is like a true good ending is like could be more to be explored. I think if you like explore that aspect of like a bad end, I think typically they would definitely do better than like one without. Like like Fate Root and Arcade Root don't have like they only have a true ending, which is fine. But I like bad ends that explore like what happens if you mess up? What happens if the person you're controlling, the main character messes up? And for that reason, I just don't think the bad end in Shizune is all that special. Maybe it's like similar to Emi's route in terms of like how much I think is important to the route. And there's that. And I think the ending is fine, but the ending is like really, really goofy. So after like Shizune, Misha, and Hisao like make up, it's graduation day, and Yuko has a camera, and then Shizune like decides to put up this goofy pose like. They actually hit that pose, and then like one of them's like that, and one of them's like I forget. Let me get a picture. Katawa Shoujo Shizune graduate. It's a really really goofy like scene. Katawa Shoujo Shizune graduation scene. Yeah, they're like actually like hitting this goofy like we are Katawa Shoujo. Like I know the lighting is really bad. They're just hitting this like goofy pose like yes for tomorrow. Not I mean, it's not like inherently bad, but I find it really goofy. That's how they end it, and then right after it's like it ends with like cheesy line. We'll meet again. Yeah, I guess. I suppose that's how you would end it, but yeah, it totally leaves more things to be desired. As in with Emi's route, it was like very hopeful, and I think this is very similar to Emi's route, but this is like it's like they ended in the middle of like his Hisao's train of thought, and I thought there definitely could be more that to say right after it didn't like feel like graduation. I like it wasn't even their graduation day. It was just them commemorating their friendship. Oh, and Hisao suddenly decides I want to be a teacher here. I guess that's the thing he decided at spur of a moment. That seems to be quite a running problem this season where like people just make moments in really like spurs of moments, as in like really short time windows. But that seems to be a running theme. And I guess I could dislike it for that. I don't like it a little bit for that. It makes sense, but the ending could have been done better. It could have been done more extensively, but otherwise, I really liked Shizune's move. It was great. Shizune is one of my favorite Shizune, one of my favorite Katawa Shoujo characters now, because she's an asshole. She's a real asshole. And I just started Hanako's route, and it probably has like the second best opening. I think the best opening is Emi's. Unfortunately, Emi's opening is like my favorite thing about the route. Sorry, Emi, it is not my thing. Yeah, Hanako's opening, it does like fire like piano solo, and then it goes and transitions into the raindrops and puddles motif, and I was like, oh my god, raindrops and puddles! It's a one awesome track, and and then like transitions into the end. I was like, okay, that is a fire opening, absolute fire. So I'm looking forward to Hanako's route. I think it's gonna be very emotional. But there's Katawa Shoujo Shizune's route. Again, I'm still very impressed that 4chan came together and made this pretty much absolute banger of a visual novel. Obviously, it is like a Western visual novel. It has the worst thing about Katawa Shoujo, I think, right now is how inconsistent the art is. The art in the CGs is completely different from the art in the sprites. It is really off-putting sometimes, and unfortunately, like, it is the one thing that I think you can't really like improve because the artists are the artists, right? And also by design, I actually thought Shizune was my favorite character. She would be the first time I opened the game, but apparently not. Now it's Rin, and I know it's definitely still gonna be Rin. Life takes you to random places. Alright. This is a really long video. I'm not really tired or something. But that's Katawa Shoujo's Shizune route. Go read it. I think the order I went was Emi, Rin, Shizune, then I plan to do Hanako and Lily. And I feel like that's a really good way to do things. You get like the Emi and Rin stuff, the Shizune Misa stuff, and the Hanako and Lily stuff. It's like a trilogy. I actually was about to say trilogy. I'm so tired. But yes, that's it for today. Nemesis out.